Hi, everybody. I'm Bryan Mudd, a fan of South Plains politics. Here's your talking points for this week. November election. We're already voting, including a special election this past week, which could have ramifications for folks in some of our counties and for them voting for more than just president soon. And breaking political stereotypes. We'll meet a Texas Tech student who's committed to teaching others that nothing in politics should ever be taken at face value.
From the studios of KAMC Television in Lubbock, your local election headquarters. This is Talking Points with Bryan Mudd.
Thanks for joining us, everybody. Also this week, what else can happen? Good wishes still coming in from all over for President Trump, the First Lady, and others after their COVID diagnosis. We will largely leave the coverage of that to the national TV folks, but we have watched a lot of smart people discuss how all this could affect the election in Texas and voters' views of Mr. Trump, who is off the campaign trail at what many say is the worst possible time. I've got to say, though, I don't think any of this is going to change the minds of most Trump voters here. I mean, have you ever seen anything like this for any candidate? An event for Trump supporters that started at Cook's garage with a few speeches ended up with anywhere between 2,000 and 7,000 cars, depending on who you listen to, looping the loop in an unprecedented Trump parade.
Man, we support Trump 100%. So we're just hoping that he wins another term, because he's to me he stands for what somebody hasn't done for us in a long time. So we're going to support him, and hopefully he can win a second term. He's going to win a second term, let me put it that way. So.
The president's reported rally in Houston and Donald Trump Jr.'s appearance in McAllen have now been postponed. Mr. Biden has not slowed his campaign schedule, but is that any sort of advantage here? I don't think I know too many people who haven't already decided who they're voting for president or any of the races. A few Democrats have asked openly why the Biden campaign hasn't spent more money than it already has in Texas. But the Center for Responsive Politics reports that 64% of political contributions in Texas this cycle have already gone to Republicans. Our John Engel follows the money.
At the statewide level right now, Joe Biden has got bigger fish to fry.
National Republicans have sent 3 times more money to Texas than Democrats.
Texas is a state that they can pick up votes in and can help down ballot Democrats, but it's not a priority for them. And it probably shouldn't be, given where things are.
The national parties are instead targeting Texas's seats in Congress, both putting up more than $6 million.
On these congressional races, there are several congressional districts where there are going to be close races.
National Democrats are now supporting Julie Oliver's bid to unseat Republican Congressman Roger Williams in Central Texas.
That means that we're going to provide her with grassroots political fundraising, communication support to help her flip that district.
Political experts say a good statewide campaign would cost the Biden campaign as much as $2 million a week. Money better spent elsewhere.
Texas is like kind of a big unwrapped Christmas present. They all expect it to be something really big and really good, and it very well might be, but they're just going to have to wait because it might not be this is the right time to do it.
All right, and we were lucky enough to talk to Mike Collier on the show during his run for lieutenant governor, now here as senior advisor to Joe Biden's campaign here in Texas, and it's good to see you.
Good to see you.
These debates are going to have their back and forths and their moments for both candidates, I think, but it feels to me that a lot of people here have already made a decision one way or the other. So what do you see in all of this? Are there still undecideds out there?
Oh, I think so. I think so.
Yeah.
Certainly a lot of people have made up their minds, and they're very emotional about it, and we see that. But there are also an awful lot of people that are listening and paying careful attention to politics, many for the first time, because of the anxiety and the concern, plus what's happening in the economy and COVID. For example, farmers and ranchers are having a very difficult time. They want to know what Joe Biden's point of view is on that. Yeah. We're worried about health care. We're worried about public education. We're worried about COVID. So I think there are a lot of people that are listening carefully to see, okay, if I vote for Joe Biden, what do I get? And that's a big part of what I'm doing up here in West Texas.
Yeah, well, you've been here, this part of the state for a couple of days, big conservative presence, as you know more than many. What's the interest in Mr. Biden here as you've gone around this part of the state?
Well, farmers and ranchers are really hurting. And it's because trade policy in the Trump administration has been all wrong, and has been wrong from the beginning. I mean, we have to be tough on China, but we can't do it alone. We have to do it in concert with other nations. So the price that farmers and ranchers paid, we got nothing for it, a failed policy. Joe Biden understands trade policy. He's a very experienced hand, so he knows what he's doing.
There was some word from Mr. Biden that he would like to phase out fracking in the energy sector as we would move on there. What can you tell us about his energy proposals for the oil and gas industry specifically?
Very happy to set the record straight.
Okay.
He is not going to ban fracking.
Okay.
He is not going to ban fracking. He is going to invest in renewables. And that should come as welcome news because there are a lot of people making good money in West Texas on wind and solar. But he's not going to ban fracking.
What's your background with Mr. Biden? I mean, why get into this job now? How did you get yourself into this?
Well, I ran for lieutenant governor, as
Right.
you know. Before that, I ran for comptroller, and so I've been traveling the state for quite a long time, 7 years. And when I was looking at the field of candidates, I felt like Joe had the highest likelihood of success and also the highest likelihood of being a very, very good president. And so I reached out to him, and I said, look, I did well in 2/3 of the counties in the state, did better than my friend Beto. And that's because in East and West Texas, people care about policy. And if you have a winning message, a pragmatic message, it's going to affect people in their lives in a positive way. Be fiscally responsible, but make sure folks have access to health care, for example. Get trade policy right so farmers and ranchers can, those markets will be gone forever if we don't get them back. Don't ban fracking, but do invest in renewables, those sorts of things. And I said to his campaign, I'll help you get your message in East and West Texas. I think you'll be very successful. They took me up on my offer.
And talk about health care for a little bit, because everyone automatically bounces things back to Obamacare, which was, especially out here in the conservative part of the country, a little divisive. But where does he stand going forward on health care policy?
It's very pragmatic, a very simple proposition. If you have private health insurance, then you keep doing what you're doing. People want choice, they want control over their health care. If you can't afford private insurance, and there are a lot of people cannot afford private insurance because the cost of health care has gone up much faster than wages.
Right.
If you cannot afford it, then have an option to buy into Medicare, which is a very, very popular program, a very cost-effective program. And for a very few people that can't afford that support. Ultimately, everybody has choice. Everybody has health care in a way that's fiscally responsible and fair. It's very pragmatic.
You talked about setting records straight earlier. I want to hear, if I hear one major issue, I think, from a lot of people who might be interested in taking a look at Biden, is his health. We've seen videos bouncing around on social media. He's not a young man. What's his health situation going into this?
Well, I've spent some time with him because I've been working on his campaign on the finance side and then as senior advisor. I don't have any problems with his strength, with his vigor, with his intellect. I can tell you that I've had a number of people that I phoned up and said, come out and see him, come out and see him, join me and come out and see him. And they've said to me, Mike, he's strong as can be. And I think people will see that tonight. They saw that in the convention. They'll see it tonight. He's in great shape.
In your mind, what does the race come down to for voters in the end? Not just in Texas per se, but all over. What's the final decision point before they push the button one way or the other here?
Well, I'll go back to what Ronald Reagan asked rhetorically one time many years ago. Are you better off after 4 years? Unemployment is very high under Trump. Farmers and ranchers are getting hammered, but we're achieving nothing in terms of trade policy. COVID is an absolute disaster. You know, we don't want government mandates. We don't want government shutdowns, but we want government information. The chaos and the confusion has made it impossible for people to make good decisions. COVID should have been behind us, long behind us. Think about health care, as discussed. Think about public education, and think about energy. I mean, he's not going to ban fracking, but he is going to invest in renewables. There are an awful lot of people that are very concerned about climate change. Farmers and ranchers are concerned. I'm hearing in my trip to West Texas that cotton farmers are concerned because things are happening too quickly, and they're very concerned about that.
Interesting. Mike Collier, again, we saw him earlier in some of his campaigns, now working as senior advisor to Joe Biden's campaign in Texas. Good luck to you guys.
Thank you. Good to see you.